Hey guys, it's Rasputin at the Fortified Castle. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the differences between a slip joint knife and a modern folder. And so you may not realize it, but 1 to 2 guys out of every 10 guys carries a pocket knife at all in America. So we take for granted that we know the differences between these things, but a lot of people don't. And so I wanted to put it out on a video so somebody, you know, looking to getting into pocket knives would have that information for them. Okay, so before I do that, I want to thank my foreign viewers, Privet, Bonjour, Guten Tag, Hola, and Ciao. And we'll get right into it. So this is going to be a pretty quick video. So this is a slip joint. This metal plate piece across the back is actually a spring, and we call it a back spring. And that is what controls the blade on this knife. So when we open this knife, you can see it right there. Let me get all that crap out of there. You can see the blade, see it right there? That's the back spring. It's always in constant contact with this blade, and as you open it, locks. So the back spring holds it open, and when you close it, it holds it closed. And that's the primary difference between a modern folder and a slip joint knife. So this is a modern folder, and they work differently. So this is one of the older designs of modern folders. It's a backlock, which we've seen those before, right? But this controls the blade. So you can see the blade pop down, and you can see the lock right here. And that is what controls the blade on this knife. So as it comes up, you'll watch it pop in, and it's locked. And that's these are probably one of the best locking mechanisms for a modern folder is a backlock. Very strong lock. And one of the first to be used when modern folders came out. In addition to the locking mechanism, the control mechanism for the blade, which is always the locking mechanism, they're also defined by their deployment method. And so you see a thumb stud right here, and you deploy this knife by using the thumb stud like that. And so that's how you do that. We move up. Another method is the flipper. This is a flipper. It's a flipper tab. It's actually attached to the blade. And if you take the knife, put your finger on it, it flips right open. What holds this open is a liner lock. This was designed, actually perfected by Michael Walker in the 90s. And so it's a pretty good lockup, but you can see the liner is kind of thin on this. So the other problem is you may not get a complete lockup on your blade. That's the difference between a well-made one and a cheap one. And so if they're well made, it's an adequate lock for the knife. It's not the strongest. Let's see. This is a bench made with the thumb deployment and a liner lock on it. Again, you can see how when you release that, you open it, and that liner pops over. And that's the locking mechanism on the knife. So these knives can have multiple deployment methods. On this one here, this is a cold steel Luzon. Really like this knife. man, I like this knife. So it has a flipper, and you can deploy it by the flipper, and you can see the locking is the liner lock in this knife with a really good lockup, about 50% on it. And you can also deploy this knife. It has a thumb stud on it, and you can deploy this knife with the thumb stud, and so it just pops right on out of there. So that's another characteristic of modern folders. They can have multiple ways that you open the knife. So I want to point out to you that this is a cold steel ranch ball. It is a slip joint knife, and you can see the back spring right there. And when you open this knife up, it locks. And so the liner pops over and locks the blade, and that blade is not going anywhere. It's very solid lockup on this. But in this case, if you push this liner over, the blade doesn't shut, no matter how hard you try. And that's because it is controlled by the back spring. So just because a slip joint knife locks up does not mean it's not a slip joint knife. So that's the difference between a modern folder. A modern folder, if the lock breaks on it, it's just going to float on you. It'll just do that. The blade will just dangle without the locking mechanism. So the next thing I want to show you, this is a Rexford design. It's a Kershaw. You've got a flipper on it, and that thing just, it's spring assisted, and man, you can't even see it. It pops out so quick. But it's a different kind of lock on this. So this is a frame lock, and this frame is split and pops over. It's under spring tension, pops over. Same as a liner lock. If you release it, you see that it starts to close, and it just pops in. And so you have liner locks, you have frame locks. Chris Reeves is the one who designed the frame lock. So this knife here is a Benchmade Freak. Love this knife. I EDC it all the time. And it's another one of those knives that has multiple deployment methods. So the lock on this is the access lock. So the patent just ran out on this, and this year you're going to see all kinds of locks like this, which I guess could be called our bar lock. And you pull it back. Let me show you here. So you can see it's locked in the blade there, and as you pull back, it releases the blade. It's under spring tension. Sorry, it's under spring tension, and so it just pops back and locks right there. But these companies, I've already seen a few. They're going to call them all kinds of different things, but Benchmade is one who patented that. These things are great, man. They work great. They're right there at your thumb. You flip it open. You close it one-handed. They're just great for fidgeting. And you can also open this knife with the thumb stud right here. So you can open it that way too. Another type of lock is the button lock. So this is a Kershaw. This is an auto knife, and most auto knives work off a button lock, but it doesn't have to be auto to have a button lock. And so button locks work on the kind of like the same principle as the access lock. Let me get it open for you. And so if you look down in there, you can see that metal piece right there. Let me get it in. Okay. And as I, come on. And as I push the lock, you see it disappear. And so as I push it in, the blade unlocks. You can see that. Wow, I'm really having a hard time with this. Let's try it this way. So yeah, you can see it rotates. And then you see that lock pop out. I don't think this is a tremendously strong lock. I don't really like button locks. but they work okay. In addition to that, there's a couple other locks. There's some new exotic locks that come out. There's a compression lock, which basically the compression lock, that's a Spyderco patent. And let me see if I can. So on a compression lock, ow, I just cut myself. On a compression lock, this is a liner lock. So on a compression lock, it works the same way. It works off the liner, but the liner is on top. And so you compress the, you compress it to release the blade and let the blade close on a compression lock. The thing is, the way it's designed, it has like a little hook in it, and it matches up to a corresponding indentation in the blade. And so it's actually like cupping the blade underneath and holding it. And so it's a stronger lock than a liner lock, at least theoretically. So the liner lock just pops over, and all that's happening is this liner is providing pressure on the blade. But a compression lock actually hooks underneath the blade as well as holding the back of the blade. And so that's about it. I appreciate you guys for watching. I hope you found it interesting. Just remember, you know, because a slip joint knife has a lock, it doesn't mean it's a modern folder. And modern folders are all defined by the, they don't have a back spring. And they use different locking mechanisms, as well as modern materials, you know, inside the knife, super steels, all kinds of different handle materials. They have pocket clips on them. So that's the difference between the two. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it informative. If you'd like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And thanks so much for supporting the channel.